the term executive health check is possibly a bit of a misnomer. It's really a health check where we look at your body, we get you in for about an hour and a half once a year, and we go through all of the things that we look for that can basically cause you harm that could be prevented. And it's quite simple. I mean, we look for the first cause of death is cardiovascular disease. So that's really a heart attack or stroke. And whilst traditionally doctors would go through the risk factors, for example, your cholesterol, your blood pressure and things, increasingly we're finding that through technology, through imaging, particularly of arteries, we can really refine that risk down. And what that will do is, if you didn't realise that you had a build-up of plaque in the arteries, which we can see now with technology, your life would go in a certain direction. However, if we can catch it early and we can say, look, what we're going to do is slow this whole process down, we will take your life in a different direction, with the aim being that you never get sick. We also focus on common cancers that we can do something about. So lung cancer is the commonest cancer killer. So if you smoke, we would be screening with a CT scan. Bowel cancer is really common, and if you wait until you get a symptom, your death rate is 50% over a 2-year period. So you really want to catch this thing early, either through colonoscopy, which is the best methodology, or at least doing stool tests, because you don't want to wait until you get symptoms of these things. Prostate cancer, we would do an annual blood test. Breast cancer, women start discussing screening with mammography at the age of 50. Lymphoma, melanoma, examine people. And then, obviously being physicians, when people come in for their hour and a half health check, we're addressing other issues that may be causing them problems, for example, thyroid, lung fibrosis, or even just musculoskeletal symptoms. What we find is we would love people to get to the age of 100 with a body like a 60-year-old. We model our practice on cultures that survive like that. So when they get to 100, physiologically they're behaving like someone 10, 20 years younger. And we coach people therefore on the Mediterranean diet. We coach people on moving enough, and a big emphasis on stress management. What we find is that our people, we have ways of measuring what their biological age is they're often performing 10, 20, 30 years younger than their chronological age. And we coach and train and encourage them to do that and keep an eye on them on an annual basis. That probably, we use a paradigm where there's a health specialist component of what my job is, which is technically look for issues that are going to cause you harm. But perhaps even a more important part is the part below that, where, as I mentioned before, in the Mediterranean diet, exercise and stress management. And so there's a whole component that's often not talked about, which we would call well-being. And what I mean by well-being, it's kind of like having these soft things that really, in my view, really play out in terms of heart disease and cancer risk. And the soft things would include things like, physical health, which is obvious, financial health, which is really important, connection to community. Do you know your neighbours' names? Things like gratitude, and I think emotional health and attitudinal health. And one of the things that we will, I don't ask my clients directly, are you financially healthy? But certainly when we have clients, we are always asking about what stresses or strains are happening with their lives and how are they managing those stresses. And when we find that I think people can probably cope with one stressful situation fairly well, and inherently, if you're in the workforce, there is definitely background stress there that would be the one. But what you really don't want is other stresses in your life, for example, relationship stresses or financial stresses. And so when people are exhibiting or telling me about stress in other parts of their lives, then we will try and stream them to other experts to manage their emotional health or their financial health if that's the issue. So I think what I'm saying here is that part of being smart about managing your life is recognizing what's important, recognizing what things need systems in place to check on a periodic basis. And then it's almost like a set and forget. You just have to show up to your financial planner or your doctor or your therapist, at the agreed upon times. But just make sure that you're always working those systems to make sure that they're as healthy as they could be, and adapt them when your circumstances change. I've been a client of Sherlock Wealth for 10 years. The attraction that drew me to it was the confidence and the trust that I felt in my advisor through Sherlock Health. So what I wanted was the best advice with someone that I could trust, and then make it as simple as possible for myself, which is almost like a set and forget. I just wanted to get the steps in place that I needed to, and then review them on a needs basis. As I said, as circumstances change, as my age changed. It's a little bit like, we would do more investigations in someone that's older, and therefore my financial planning gets a bit more complex as I get older, in a similar vein, because my life is a lot more complex with business and children and estates and things like that. So I never needed to worry about whether I was getting the right advice, and that just suited my needs entirely. I just needed someone that was trustworthy, on top of their game, could set me up in the system, and then review it on a needs basis, and have that trust that I could just park that there and not be therefore stressed about it. They can look me up, executivemedicine.com.au, Dr. John Cummins. It's as simple as calling my practice manager, Claire, or even just giving a call, and we can have a discussion over the phone and just see what your needs are. Essentially, I think the model of people will pop the car in for a service once a year, and I think if you popped your car in and you watched the mechanic and he charged you $900 and all he did was walk around the car, start the engine, turn it off, walk out, you'd be a bit disappointed. But if you popped the hood, looked at the diagnostics, replaced timing chains when they needed to, really drill down, and I'm thinking, well, your body's the same, isn't it? Why would you put that much time and effort into your car once a year and just assume that you're going to run on forever? Whereas in reality, if you pop the bonnet and have a look inside, we frequently find things that basically make a difference and often save lives. And it's the most powerful thing you can do is if you don't have health, well then wealth becomes a bit less relevant. You don't have relationships because you may not be here or you may be so impaired that you can't enjoy them anyway.